Hi, everyone. This is Jeff Praissman with Interactive Brokers Podcast. It's my pleasure to welcome back Scott Bauer from Prosper Trading Academy. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Jeff, I'm great and just hoping for a Cubs win later today.
Well, unfortunately, my Phillies don't seem to be getting it done.
Yep.
But, it's great. We have you in about every other Wednesday just to kind of go over the market the week before and kind of what you see ahead. And, always appreciate you coming by. And for our listeners, you can find more from Scott at prospertradingacademy.com and also on our website under education. But, Scott, I want to kind of take a little different twist this time around. And, last week, the Intercontinental Exchange, they made a pretty big announcement. They're making a $2 billion investment
Yep.
in Polymarket, which for those that aren't familiar, it's a prediction market platform. And these prediction markets and event contracts are becoming, more and more popular and mainstream. Interactive Brokers offers access to forecast X contracts and the CME event contracts. Kalshi's, advertising all over the place, it seems.
Yep.
And, in your opinion, how do these prediction markets correlate with the more traditional, market instruments like equities and options? And did you see
Yeah.
more of the exchanges getting involved with these down the road?
I think it's just an extension of what we have already, especially, I think Intercontinental Exchange, Polymarket, Kalshi, they probably all looked at the massive rise of these zero DTE options actually in the SPX that came out, and the necessity because of the demand for these types of, I'm not going to call them bets because as a trader, we never like to say anybody's making a bet, but these
Mhm.
types of strategies that really are very binary and maybe short term in nature. So when I see these prediction markets come out here, and again, you mentioned, CME has them. They're available, across a wide array of products where you can, take a position on whether the S&P is going to close above or below a certain price, gold is, whatever it might be. And I think that's all because of the demand of the marketplace right now. So I do think they're very highly correlated, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more and more similar type products being rolled out.
And, I can't have you on without talking about the VIX. And, yesterday we got about a 6% pop out of the
Yeah.
VIX. You think the vol is going to, continue to rise in the immediate future?
It's really interesting because if you look at the vol curve in the VIX, if you look at the futures curve going out, it's pretty flat. So that pop that we saw was really short term, meaning that, maybe retail or people thought that something was going to happen imminently or really, in the next week or so, whether the market was at a top, something with the shutdown, whatever it might be. But going out, those futures going out, pretty steady, pretty flat. Now, I would expect vol to stay, pretty level and maybe tick up a little bit. I don't think it's coming down anytime soon.
And, another podcast, another 52-week high in the S&P.
Oh my God.
Um, is this the top or are we just going to keep going?
My magic 8 ball has been wrong the last 8 times or so. It's crazy. This is a Teflon market, Jeff. It really is. And the trend has certainly been to the upside. At some point, we know that's going to reverse, but what's it going to take? This market has just, been thrown so many curveballs, and yet we continue to move higher. Maybe it's the lofty expectations coming into earnings season. Maybe that's going to do it a little bit, but boy, oh boy, you just can't bet against the trend right now.
Yeah. And, the earnings are starting to kind of trickle in a little bit, but I think most people consider next week really the start of it.
Yep.
The 14th, we got some big hitters. We got JP Morgan, we got Goldman, Citi, Wells Fargo. What's the market expecting from the financial sector, coming up?
Like I just said, it's pretty optimistic. In fact, 8 of the 11 S&P 500 sectors are projected to report pretty big year-over-year earnings growth, and that's led by the financials, also led by the tech sector. So, especially when you look at the big guys, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Stanley, those are the ones that are going to be the bellwethers that are really going to kind of lead the charge here. But as I said, there's a lot of optimism, which is really different than what we've seen over the last year when there's been some pessimism coming into earnings season.
Yeah, and then we always talk, obviously AI is a huge subject, the financials, but is there a sector that you think that might be flying under the radar that could have a big market effect this earnings season?
Sure. Yeah. And, kind of goes along with the AI that you just mentioned. But because AI companies are really increasing their power consumption daily, I mean, there's talk about this all over the place, right? All over the place, driving global electricity demand. I think you have to look at utilities, the old stodgy utility group that people would look to in times of inflation or for dividends. I think that is the one sector that can really benefit from this uptick in this power consumption that we're going to see.
So really an old classic investment. It could become the new, newfangled trendy investment too.
Exactly. Exactly.
And finally, I want to wrap it up with, the Fed's going to release their minutes today at 2 p.m. Eastern time from the September meeting. Is the market sentiment, is it looking for anything to release, or is it sort of just kind of knows what's, isn't expecting any kind of changes or anything
Yeah.
like that, or just,
I think the market would like to see no dissension. So more of all of the Fed governors coming together and saying, okay, we're all in the same camp. Whether we believe that we need to have 2 or 3 cuts coming up, the fact that it would be, I don't want to say unanimous, but a really, concerted effort or concerted opinion that they all are in the same camp of either cutting or not cutting, and it would be cutting. I think that's what the market is really expecting, and no more of this dissension where you have a couple of the Fed heads, as I call them, saying, you know what, we don't need to cut rates now.
Scott, this has been great. Thank you so much for stopping by. I love these, short, precise conversations we have regarding the markets on Wednesdays. And for our listeners, again, you can find more from Scott at Prosper Trading Academy, as well as on our website under education. Contributes, articles and webinars and podcasts as well. Scott, until next time, thank you.
Really appreciate it, Jeff.
The analysis in this material is provided for information only and is not and should not be construed as an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to buy any security. To the extent that this material discusses general market activity, industry, or sector trends, or other broad-based economic or political conditions, it should not be construed as research or investment advice. To the extent that it includes references to specific securities, commodities, currencies, or other instruments, those references do not constitute a recommendation by IBKR to buy, sell, or hold such investments. This material does not and is not intended to take into account the particular financial conditions, investment objectives, or requirements of individual customers. Before acting on this material, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular circumstances, and, as necessary, seek professional advice. Interactive Brokers LLC is a CFTC-registered futures commission merchant and a clearing member and affiliate of ForecastX LLC. ForecastX is a CFTC-registered designated contract market and derivatives clearing organization. Interactive Brokers LLC provides access to ForecastX forecast contracts for eligible customers. Interactive Brokers LLC does not make recommendations with respect to any products available on its platform, including those offered by ForecastX. Forecast contracts are only available to eligible clients of Interactive Brokers LLC, Interactive Brokers Hong Kong Limited, and Interactive Brokers Singapore Pte. Ltd. Futures, event contracts, and forecast contracts are not suitable for all investors. Before trading these products, please read the CFTC risk disclosure. For a copy, visit our warnings and disclosures page. Options involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. For information on the uses and risks of options, you can obtain a copy of the Options Clearing Corporation Risk Disclosure document titled Characteristics and Risks of Standardized Options by going to the following link: ibkr.com/OCC. Multiple leg strategies, including spreads, will incur multiple transaction costs. Futures are not suitable for all investors. The amount you may lose may be greater than your initial investment. Before trading futures, please read the CFTC risk disclosure. A copy and additional information are available at ibkr.com.